Amelia about her professional background as well as her love for her family and God. But you also here because you are the co-director for a local pageant that has national ramifications called Miss Juneteenth. And I really think that what you're doing is wonderful. And as a lot of people didn't even know about Juneteenth until it became a national holiday. Was it 2 years ago that it became a national holiday? And you want to share real quick with my audience what Juneteenth represents?
Well, Juneteenth represents freedom. Basically, it is when in June 19th, which is how the name came to be, June and 19 comes together to make Juneteenth. But June 19th, 1865, there were slaves that were still working as slaves, not knowing that they were free. They were actually soldiers. And so finally, the news got to them maybe about 2 years later that they had been free all this time from President Lincoln. So he freed them, and then after that, they just went to work. They went to work in sharing the news. They went to work in raising up their young to love history, to love themselves, to reach for goals. Anything is possible. I believe, way back then, even before they were free, they always believed anything and everything is possible.
Yeah.
And so now they had parties, they had barbecues, they danced, and then the most important thing is they shared the story.
I love that because that's why people call Juneteenth like the African American 4th of July or Emancipation. And I understand that at least the widespread celebration sort of started in Texas or Galveston area.
Right.
And a lot of people, a lot of people didn't realize that a lot of slave holders, once the Emancipation Proclamation rang out, they got out of, and even after the Civil War, they moved out of states or in states where there wasn't a lot of federal oversight or accountability and kept maintaining some of the most oppressive type of societies. Like, that's why, Black Wall Street and the idea they had riots. So we think about the South, we think about Mississippi, Alabama, right. But Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma was off the chain. So this celebration, now that it's a national holiday, I'm glad that more and more people get to embrace it. And I'm going to be talking to Valandria Smith, who actually brought the pageant to the local, I'm going to say Big Bend area here in Taylor County. But if you live in the Big Bend area that does not have a local Miss Juneteenth pageant, you can also participate in this pageant. So we're going to get to talking about pageantry and the importance of pageantry overall. But now this is going into the second year of Miss Juneteenth. How did you get involved?
Well, Valandria Smith is actually my cousin. We're first cousins. My dad and her mom are brother and sister. And so her first year, I wasn't able to come because I wasn't here. And then the second year, I kind of helped out with some things. And then the third year, she was like, "You coming back, right?" And I was like, "Oh, of course, anything to help you out." And so all of a sudden, it was 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. We work at night. So that's actually our daytime. And basically, when you listen to Valandria, she's just a plethora of ideas, how to get young people involved, how to spread the word. And I was just like, all right, she's my little cousin, but hey, I am following in her footsteps. So I have enjoyed working with her, just listening to her. She's a history freak. She loves history. And so what better history to learn than your own? And so when she began to share it with me.
Thank you so much, Amelia, for being on the show with me. We're going to now talk to the one and only Valandria Smith, who had not only the desire to do the Miss Juneteenth pageant, but she brought the celebration of Juneteenth to Taylor County, if not the Big Bend area. So we're going to talk to her about her vision for not just the pageant, but for the celebration. And thank you for sharing a little bit of your journey.
And thank you for allowing us to be on the show and for always being the best big God sister ever.
In fact, we're going to take a break before Valandra comes on, and I'm going to show you a few pictures from last year's Miss Juneteenth pageant. A chance to talk to you, but if you would, before we start talking about your positioning for pageantry and bringing this wonderful tradition to Perry, Florida and the Big Bend area, could you just tell my Hope More audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Valandra Smith. I was born and raised in Taylor County. Currently, I live in Tallahassee. I graduated from Florida A&M University, and I've always been a history buff. I've always loved history. I like to tell people when I was in the 12th grade, I got the history award. I had the highest history grade at one point in time. So history has always been my thing. I enjoy people. I enjoy our culture. I think Black love is beautiful.
I love that. I love that so much. It's funny. I loved history too. I was a history major in college, but
wow.
I really fell in love with history in high school.
Right.
And I know, okay, so, but Landry, you're younger than Jamelia. And so I know how old Jamelia is, and I know how old Sarita is. So by the time you got to high school, this may no longer have been active, but I started a Black history class and a Black history club that your cousin Sarita ended up taking up. But a part of that was because in high school, it was like, my eyes were like, whoa, there's so much that's not being taught.
Right,
and
right.
That I still didn't really hear about Juneteenth, I think, until I got to college. And then also like a blurb. All my friends from Texas were like, yeah, you know, Juneteenth. And I'm like, and I thought Juneteenth was for boyfriend and girlfriend or something. I don't think I really connected it to the history. And Jamelia gave us a good sense of the history behind Juneteenth. But I wanted to ask you, what was in your heart to basically fashion a whole celebration, several celebrations around Juneteenth? Because I've been talking a lot about the pageant, but you also have planned, and last year did, and maybe the year before, I can't remember, but before it became a national holiday, you were doing stuff in the community regarding Juneteenth. So could you just share with me a little bit about what made you choose that particular holiday to highlight in the community?
Okay. I kind of actually remember the day that I'm going to say that the Lord laid it on me. I truly am. George Floyd had just been murdered, and it was all over the news. And I was sad because I was just sad because, you know, he was how many in the number of Black men that have been, you know, killed by police officers, people that are sworn to protect and serve the community. So that was a very sad day for me. And I had been reading about Juneteenth for a very long time. I'm very interested in the holiday, how it came about. You know, in the state of Florida, we do May Day. So that's probably why Yes, Juneteenth is not that big in the state of Florida because we celebrate May Day, which is May 20th, and that's when the I can't think of his name as of right now, but they're basically saying that he landed he rode into Tallahassee at Lake Ella. That's the spot where the Emancipation Proclamation was read for the state of Florida. Is in Lake Ella in Tallahassee, Florida. So yes, a lot of Floridians, they do May Day, Mule Day, and things of that nature, Jubilee Day. So the ending of slavery, the celebration of the ending of the enslaved people have been going on throughout the years. We kind of fell off as a people throughout the years, and now I guess you can say it's like wildfire again. And I hate to use this term, but it's all because of the woke movement. But I think what is happening is we're becoming more aware of ourselves. We're becoming more aware of the contributions that we've made to America. And we're becoming more aware that we are a unique people. And just because it's the color of our skin does the content of our mind, We are very smart. We are very loving as a community as a whole. So I could just remember that day. I was sitting in my living room and I was just thinking, how can I instill in the youth of Perry what I got as a teenager, what I got as a child growing up in Florida, in Perry, like your mom and other adults in the community. They made sure that we were well aware of where we came from as far as our history goes. I can remember the Martin Luther King days, the speeches that we would give, the Black Brain Bowls, things of that nature. So I wanted to give my community what I learned, because I hate to say it, our school system is bad. And especially when it comes to history, they pick and choose the things that they want us to know. And what gets me is history. It's history. Everybody, to me, is not where you started, is where you end. So everybody has a history, and we have to evolve from that history. So, in the school system, you learn about Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks. There's more to African-American history, as my brother liked to say, Afro-descendant history, than just those three people. So I think I felt the calling to basically bridge that gap, to let them know about other historical figures besides Martin Luther King. You got Ida B. Wells, things of that nature. You got Fannie Lou Hammer. Everybody love to say I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, but they don't know where it comes from. So that's what I wanted them to know. Frederick Douglass was a very powerful man, and he was like, you it's education. You have to educate yourself. So that's basically where the desire came from. I just felt like the teens, the youth of Taylor County, even some of the adults of Taylor County, we need to educate ourselves, and we need to fall back in love with ourselves, because I think once we realize how unique we are, that we might be able to stop the so-called black on black crime, that type of stuff. When you find pride in what you know about your people, it shows, so you won't want to hurt nobody else. So that's my whole spiel on it.
You can tell you are passionate. You are not playing.
I'm not, because as we look at it right now, we are really in a fight to how can I put it, to make sure that our youth know about African American history. As you know, our governor wants to take everything away from us. And one thing you can't take away history. You cannot rewrite history. You can't do it. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, you have to go with it and move from it to make it better for the up and coming generations. So I think it's like it's a dire need as of right now to make sure that we are connected with our history and we know what's going on. Yeah.
It definitely is an SOS, and I love it. I love it. And like I said, we're here to talk about pageantry and how you came about choosing that route as a part of the Juneteenth celebration. And I do know that there are pageants all over the nation. And last year, I think you went to the national pageant as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of sort of the idea of how important Juneteenth traditions are, but when the show being about pageantry, what is it about pageant styles that made you interested in not just assisting, but you are starting a new tradition to be added to the tradition of Black queens in our community, especially in American South. We love pageants from little kids to older, but what like pulled you in?
Okay. As I was doing my research on Juneteenth, and how it evolved into different things, different avenues, and pageant is one of them. Speakeasy is another one. Church services, barbecues, all of that was incorporated into the first Juneteenth celebration. Even the gala, all of they incorporate into the first Juneteenth celebration, and it's a reason behind everything. As when we was enslaved, when our ancestors were enslaved, we could not participate in those type of activities. So one thing that when Juneteenth rolled around in 1865, 1866, the following year, that's when they started adding different activities to the community. They came up with pageants. They came up with the gala. They wanted to dress in their finest clothes because, as an enslaved person, you could not wear certain attire.
Right.
So that's one thing. That's why I wanted to do the pageant, is because of the different activities evolved over the years, and a Juneteenth pageant was one of them, and that's when they showcased the females, the young ladies. Education was a big part of it. So they just basically wanted to showcase their knowledge of what they had learned in school or learned in the university, and how they was going to help the race thrive and be better, as to one reason why they came with most of the Juneteenth pageants.
Start on so many levels. So I'm trying to make sure that when I'm talking, especially to you, that I'm connecting for the audience, because I know we can probably talk without finishing statements and we know exactly what we're talking about. But you and I both have participated in pageants, and I say we're legacy because her mother, the great late Lorraine Montgomery, she was Miss Woodland Queen, which was like back in the days in the 60s, was that a pageant only for high school students? And so Jerkins High School, for those of you in Perry, Florida, you'll know that was the quote-unquote Negro school. But not only was her mom a queen, my dad got to escort her sometimes. And I love the picture because she is so poised. And I don't know if you can tell or not, but the two of us, even though she's much smaller, we are women of a particular hue and a particular size. And really, for a lot of us, like Miss Lorraine Montgomery was like, she's like, I am model size. I am the model. And so my dad would often comment like, that mom, I mean, your mom, it was so confident and cocky and just like you couldn't tell her nothing. And he often says, you act just like her, Jamelia. But, so she didn't shy away. She didn't like discount herself. She saw herself as royal. And I forgot my mom was a queen of some sort. I think it was a church pageant. But my mom and her mom were part of an organization called Taylor Interdenominational Christian Outreach. And in the early 80s, it might have been 1980, they started a pageant called Miss Lady Pageant. And what was really cool about Miss Lady Pageant, any church that participated, they chose their representative from that church. Hopefully they supported them financially also. And it was like a part pageant, part like manners class, part interview. And this pageant for a couple of decades was really a nice little tradition in our community. So that's why when I saw Miss Juneteenth, I was like, I love this because it didn't just start with us, right, but especially Black Southerners, we really appreciate the pageant experience. Yes. Because I think one of those reasons, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, one of those reasons is because we had to promote ourselves. We couldn't look to the mainstream society to, right, give us affirmation. We had to affirm ourselves. Right. And one of the how much more can you be affirmed than to have a crown on and people call you queen and wave? Yeah. What are other reasons why you think in the Black Southern community that pageants still play such a strong influence in how we sort of express and affirm young women?
I would say, other than, a display of yourself, communication, working with others, learning about new things. Pageants these days is about go big or go home. So you learn to, go and explore new places that you may not have done otherwise on your own. But I think the most important thing is that young ladies get to look at me. And not necessarily look at me because I'm showing off, but I did not know that I could do that. Last year we had one young lady, she wanted to sing and she was like, I don't sound right. But when she opened her mouth to speak, oh boy. And I said, I know what we're going to do for you. We're going to teach you a poem. And I tell you, Sister Girl had it going on. She did. She was able to just say, wow, I did not know that I could do that. And so pageants also not only help you display yourself, but it also helps others help you display yourself. Because sometimes you don't even know that you have that gift until somebody points it out. When I first started with choreography, I'm not like a professional dancer, but I do dance. One of the things my mom said was, this is for you. This is you. And I was like, okay, we just flopping our arms. No. This is for you. And what she said was, I want you to take this song and I want you to do it, but I want you to make it yours. So now the challenge is, okay, first I have to see that ability. Mama said, I have that ability. My pageant coordinator says, I have that ability. Yeah. So now how do I meet the challenge? And so working through, how do I meet the challenge? And those young ladies, we told them one day, they were just like, we're ready for practice to be over. And I said, Miss Valandra and I, we're workhorses. That's what we do. We work. And our goal is to make sure that on pageant night, you don't need us. You stand before the crowd and you are confident. You're not scared at all. That's why we do what we do. We make you rehearse it so it becomes familiar. And once something becomes familiar, it's like clockwork, right? The night of the pageant, they literally got upset when they had to be escorted by the gentleman. I don't mean him. It's like, wait, no, we want to present you. they were kind of upset because they had become just that confident. So I think having other people recognize something in you and then you meeting the challenge. And so that's one of the things that has carried me throughout my life. My mother said, your mother said, Miss Carmen Dennis said, I see this in you, no matter what happens, because unfortunately I had that tongue. But my mother said, in spite of, doesn't make you less. No, that's just a little hiccup you got to work on. But that's really what we become to love, people's imperfections, don't you think?
I think that's what God loves. Yeah. It makes us different. Everybody's not the same.
Everybody's not cookie cutter, and what you may think is a flaw is really somebody else's blessing. So you just have to learn that, you work on your little flaws and you become better. And that's one of the things that we want, young people. Oh, I'm too shy. Oh, I don't have a talent. Everyone has a talent. Everyone has a talent.
Everyone has a talent.
Everyone has a talent. It may not be a in front of the scenes type of talent. It may be a behind the scenes type of talent, but everyone has a talent.
Gosh, you had so many jewels there. I think about, is it the Titus 2? I'm gonna have to make sure I get that right on the show. But about where the women, the older women, are admonished to teach the younger women. And in this society, it just seems like there's a lack of teaching. Right. And maybe that is a lack of listening too. But it was important. The people you mentioned, I think about Miss Brasby. Mm-hmm. And how she would just say, you're just such a pretty girl. Yes. And I was just like, for some reason, I believed her. Yes. And everyone doesn't have that kind of, support. Like, you're smart, you're beautiful. Right. But I love how you said pageants help you discover yourself. Right. You try stuff that you've never been asked to do. And some people think that pageants are just about the looks or wanting to have like a fabulous party, but pageantry literally is like the idea of being in a glorious place, but it comes through hard work. And it is that, oh, I didn't know I could do that, or I didn't know I could stand tall and not be afraid. Exactly. And a lot of times people don't know what they can do until until they do it. A lot of people
don't realize that pageants like the Miss Beauty pageant, Miss USA, those girls look beautiful, but notice the weight of the judging is what they do behind the scenes.
Yeah.
They have to be educated. They have to go to college. They have to have a platform. They have to go through workshops. They have to be able to speak. They have to be able to express ideas, So it's not all about beauty, although we are beautiful. But there is a brain, and we want them to exercise and meet those challenges.
That's wonderful. And I think you just wrapped it up so well in saying that it's not just about the outward beauty, but it's also the inward beauty, because that's why you can watch a pageant and it's not like the most beautiful person wins necessarily on the outside, but they have something in them that drew people's attention. And I definitely want to talk about interview part, because like you said, in most pageants, some of the bigger scores are actually what's taking place off the stage. And she and I were both a part of the local pageant Miss Lady that I told you about. Her sister was a part of it. And so I just remember being very, very, oh gosh, so many people. Your cousin was a bad, anyway. And it's so funny because some contestants stood out so much. I think they won and they may not have won. Because everybody was like their best. It literally was like a toss-up who would win. But the interview part,